The year was 2001. A chilling silence descended upon Lower Manhattan as the Twin Towers crumbled, a silence quickly swallowed by the roar of collapsing steel and the screams of a city in agony. Amidst the chaos and the thick dust that blanketed everything, a critical, almost unbelievable detail began to emerge. Whispers, then reports, spoke of massive gold reserves, billions of dollars worth, stored deep beneath the World Trade Center. It was a detail that, even in the face of such immense tragedy, snagged at the edges of reason. The initial official statements about the gold's fate were vague, almost dismissive. They hinted at a coordinated, yet largely unexplained removal. These early pronouncements downplayed the significance of such a massive financial asset, almost as if to brush it aside. For those paying close attention, this immediate minimization of an incredibly valuable resource raised the first red flag. It sowed seeds of doubt in a time when clarity was desperately needed. How could something so substantial be so easily accounted for, or rather so quickly dismissed? Then there was the unsettling image, a fleeting glimpse for some, of armored trucks. These vehicles, seemingly out of place amidst the unfolding disaster, were seen leaving the very edge of the catastrophe zone. This happened hours before any official recovery efforts could realistically have begun. It suggested a calculated, preemptive action, a move made with precision and purpose while the world watched in horror, focused on the human cost. It was a visual that confirmed for many that something far more complex was at play than a simple accident or an act of terror alone. The gold wasn't just there, it was being moved. Some secrets are simply too heavy to remain buried under rubble. They refuse to be forgotten, pushing their way through layers of dust and official narratives until they demand to be seen. The story of the World Trade Center gold is one such secret. It's a story that challenges what we thought we knew, forcing us to look beyond the headlines and question the very foundations of trust. What truly happened to those billions in gold? Who orchestrated its disappearance? And why, in the midst of one of the most significant events in modern history, was its fate so carefully controlled and obscured? These questions hung in the air, thick and heavy, like the dust that once settled over ground zero. They demanded answers, and for years those answers remained elusive, hidden behind a veil of official statements and convenient explanations. The scale of the loss, the precision of the timing, and the swiftness of the official response all pointed to something far more intricate than a simple casualty of disaster. It pointed to a very specific plan. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. To understand the sheer magnitude of this mystery, we must first travel back in time to the late 1990s. This was an era defined by a unique blend of swagger and anxiety in New York City, particularly in the financial districts. Wall Street buzzed with an almost palpable energy, a sense of invincibility that seemed to permeate every skyscraper and trading floor. Beneath the gleaming towers of the World Trade Center, in vaults designed to withstand unimaginable forces, lay the physical manifestation of that financial power: gold. Not just a little gold, but an astonishing amount, representing a significant portion of global reserves. This was a time when the world operated on a different financial rhythm. Gold, the ancient store of value, still held immense sway in international finance. Central banks, those quiet custodians of national wealth, held vast quantities of it. Private investors, from individual millionaires to sprawling multinational corporations, also understood its enduring appeal. It was a tangible asset, a hedge against inflation, a symbol of stability in an increasingly volatile world. The decision to store such massive quantities in a single, albeit seemingly secure location like the World Trade Center reflected both its importance and the prevailing belief in the impregnability of these iconic structures. The Twin Towers were not just buildings, they were fortresses, symbols of American economic might. The narrative of the gold was intricate, woven into the fabric of global commerce. Numerous entities had vested interests in those subterranean vaults. There were foreign central banks, using New York as a trusted hub for their assets. There were wealthy families and powerful investment groups, their fortunes literally resting beneath the streets of Manhattan. And then there was the shadowy world of international finance, where deals were struck and assets moved with quiet discretion, often far from public scrutiny. All these threads converged on the World Trade Center, making its vaults a nerve center of global wealth. The gold wasn't just a commodity, it was a cornerstone of an interconnected financial ecosystem, a silent testament to trust and power. The sheer volume of gold stored there was staggering. Estimates placed it in the billions of dollars, a figure that, even in the context of New York's vast wealth, was monumental. This wasn't pocket change. It was enough to influence national economies, to back currencies, and to serve as a bedrock for countless financial transactions. Its strategic importance was undeniable. Any disruption to this reserve would send ripples across the globe. This immense value laid the groundwork for understanding the scale of the mystery that would soon unfold. The disappearance of such a treasure could not be dismissed as a mere oversight. It would be an event of profound consequence. The emotional backdrop of that era was one of implicit trust. Trust in institutions, trust in security measures, trust in the established order. People believed that their assets, whether physical gold or digital records, were safe within the systems designed to protect them. The idea that such a massive reserve could simply vanish or be systematically removed was almost unthinkable. This trust, so deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness, was precisely what would soon be shattered. It was a trust that, once broken, would prove incredibly difficult to rebuild, leaving behind a legacy of suspicion and unanswered questions. The gold beneath the towers was more than just metal. It was a symbol of that fragile trust, a trust soon be tested beyond its limits. As the years passed, leading up to that fateful day, faint whispers and growing anxieties began to circulate. These weren't public proclamations, but rather the quiet concerns of those who understood the intricacies of security. Unheeded warnings from security experts, individuals whose job it was to identify vulnerabilities, started to surface. They spoke of potential weaknesses in the WTC Gold's protection protocols, concerns that were often dismissed as alarmist or overly cautious. These experts pointed out that while the vaults were robust, the systems surrounding them, the human element and the access points, carried inherent risks. Their concerns, however, seemed to fall on deaf ears, lost in the hum of prosperity and perceived invincibility. Then came the reports of unusual activities in the months leading up to September 11th, 2001. These weren't isolated incidents, but a pattern that, in hindsight, painted a troubling picture. There were increased security drills, more frequent than usual, but with parameters that seemed oddly specific or unexplained. Personnel, sometimes unfamiliar faces, were observed making unusual movements, often around the vault areas. New surveillance systems, seemingly redundant given the existing infrastructure, were installed, adding another layer of complexity without clear justification. These activities at the time were explained away as routine upgrades or heightened security measures in a post-millennium world. But for those on the ground witnessing these events firsthand, a sense of unease began to grow. It felt like something was being prepared, an elaborate stage being set, though for what no one could quite articulate. Simultaneously, there was a growing sense of broken promises regarding transparency and accountability from financial institutions. While they publicly assured the safety of their assets, the reality behind the scenes was often different. Information about the exact holdings, transfer logs, and security audits became increasingly opaque. This opaqueness created an atmosphere of distrust, particularly among those who had entrusted their wealth to these institutions. It was a subtle shift, not a sudden betrayal, but a gradual erosion of the trust that had once been so fundamental. The lack of clear, verifiable information allowed for speculation, and more importantly, it allowed for actions to be taken without proper oversight. This period also saw a subtle manipulation of public perception. Through selective media leaks and carefully controlled information about the gold reserves, the public was subtly made complacent. News reports would occasionally mention the immense wealth stored beneath the towers, always framing it in terms of impenetrable security and national pride. Any dissenting voices or questions about vulnerabilities were quickly drowned out or ignored. The narrative was carefully managed to foster a sense of unwavering confidence, ensuring that the public would not question the security of such a vital national asset. This deliberate shaping of public opinion effectively created a blind spot. diverting attention from the very real concerns that were being raised by those in the know. Looking back, the audience now realizes something profound. The missing gold wasn't a sudden, chaotic event born from the tragedy of 9/11. Instead, it appears to have been the culmination of a systematic erosion of security and oversight, a slow dismantling of protective measures that had been occurring for months, if not longer. The 9/11 incident, therefore, became the opportune moment, the perfect storm under which this long-planned disappearance could be executed. The chaos and devastation provided an unparalleled cover, a smokescreen behind which an elaborate operation could be completed with minimal scrutiny. It wasn't about seizing an opportunity in the moment. It was about exploiting a meticulously crafted scenario, using the horrific events of that day as the ultimate distraction. The gold didn't just vanish, it was made to vanish, the final act in a carefully orchestrated play. Post 9/11, the official narrative surrounding the gold rapidly hardened, shifting from initial vague statements to definitive, yet often contradictory, claims about its recovery. In the immediate aftermath, government officials and financial institutions spoke in generalities, emphasizing the overwhelming priority of rescue and recovery efforts. They initially suggested that the gold was being assessed, its condition unknown, implying that its fate was still up in the air. However, as weeks turned into months, these vague assurances began to solidify into concrete pronouncements. Suddenly, detailed reports emerged, claiming that virtually all the gold had been safely recovered, meticulously accounted for, and transferred to secure locations. These reports, often presented with an air of finality, seemed designed to quash any further inquiry, presenting a tidy resolution to a potentially troublesome question. However, the rapid shift in narrative, coupled with the lack of verifiable details, immediately raised red flags for a small but growing number of independent journalists and financial analysts. These truth seekers, accustomed to scrutinizing official statements, began to question the official story. They pointed out inconsistencies in the timelines of recovery, the logistics of moving such massive quantities of metal under the stated conditions, and the surprising lack of transparency regarding the specific beneficiaries of the recovered assets. When they pressed for more details, for audit reports, or for photographic evidence, they were met with immediate pushback. Mainstream media outlets, often echoing official government lines, dismissed their concerns as baseless speculation or insensitive theorizing in a time of national mourning. Government sources, when confronted, either stonewalled completely or offered vague, bureaucratic explanations that circled back to the established narrative without providing any new information. The atmosphere quickly became heavy with suspicion. Those who dared to investigate further, who continued to ask inconvenient questions, found themselves facing a concerted effort to discredit them. Independent journalists saw their articles rejected by publishers, their funding sources dry up, and their professional reputations attacked. Financial analysts who presented alternative theories or flagged discrepancies in official reports found themselves suddenly sidelined, their expertise questioned, and their careers facing unexpected setbacks. The message was clear. Challenging the official account of the gold's recovery was not just unpopular, it was professionally dangerous. The powerful forces at play seemed determined to control the narrative, and they wielded significant influence over the channels of information and public discourse. Social pressure mounted on anyone attempting to challenge the official narrative. In the wake of such a profound national tragedy, questioning official statements was often equated with a lack of patriotism or a callous disregard for the victims. This created an environment of fear and self-censorship. People were hesitant to voice their doubts publicly, even privately, for fear of being ostracized, labeled as conspiracy theorists or worse. The emotional intensity of the period was skillfully leveraged to create a defensive barrier around the official story, making it incredibly difficult for alternative viewpoints to gain traction. The public, still reeling from the shock and grief, largely accepted the official explanation, eager for any semblance of order and resolution. This was the peak of emotional suffocation for those seeking the truth. Independent journalists and financial analysts felt increasingly isolated, overwhelmed by the sheer power of the forces attempting to control the narrative. They were up against not just government agencies and financial institutions, but also the prevailing public sentiment and a compliant media landscape. The weight of this opposition was immense, creating a sense of hopelessness. It felt as though every door was closed, every avenue of inquiry blocked, and every attempt to shed light on the truth was met with a wall of denial and ridicule. The silence from official channels, combined with the loud condemnation from mainstream voices, created a suffocating environment where the truth seemed destined to remain buried, not under the rubble of the towers, but under layers of carefully constructed official stories and societal pressure. The few who persisted did so at great personal and professional risk, driven by an unwavering belief that such a significant event deserved a transparent and honest accounting. They understood that the stakes were higher than just gold. They involved the very integrity of institutions and the public's right to know. Then a turning point arrived, not with a bang, but with the quiet, unsettling rustle of old papers. An anonymous source, a former insider burdened by years of silence, reached out with something extraordinary, a previously classified document. This wasn't just any document, it detailed an intricate pre-9/11 operation. It laid bare a systematic removal of a significant portion of the World Trade Center gold, an operation meticulously disguised as routine transfers or security upgrades. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking, revealing a calculated deception that had been unfolding for months, perhaps even years, before the towers fell. The document, a patchwork of coded memos, internal logs, and carefully worded directives, painted a chilling picture. It showed that the gold was not missing in the chaos of September 11th. It had been methodically extracted under the guise of legitimate financial activities long before the attacks. The paperwork traced movements of vast quantities of gold, not to other secure vaults within the financial district as one might expect, but to undisclosed international locations. These transfers were authorized by high-level individuals within various unnamed financial entities, individuals who clearly understood the immense value and strategic importance of the assets they were moving. The dates on these documents were critical, predating the 9/11 attacks by weeks, sometimes months, clearly indicating a pre-planned operation, not a hurried salvage effort. This revelation shattered the established narrative completely. It wasn't about heroic recovery efforts in the rubble. It was about a deep-seated conspiracy that had exploited a national tragedy for immense financial gain. The gold wasn't lost. It was stolen, systematically and deliberately, under the cloak of routine business. The official figures who had so confidently declared the gold recovered were either complicit or incredibly misinformed, a thought that was almost as disturbing as the theft itself. The document exposed a layer of deception so profound that it made the previous stonewalling and ridicule against independent journalists seem like a desperate attempt to protect a far greater secret. The narrative key turned dramatically at this point. The search for missing gold transformed into an investigation into its deliberate removal. We weren't looking for remnants in the debris anymore. We were tracing the paper trail of a meticulously planned heist. The focus shifted from the immediate aftermath of the tragedy to the quiet, calculated machinations that preceded it. This wasn't about what happened on 9/11, but what was made to happen before it, using the impending disaster as the ultimate cover. The anonymous whistleblower, risking everything, provided the crucial piece of the puzzle that changed the entire direction of the inquiry. Their courage, born from a deep-seated moral conflict, cracked open a door that powerful forces had desperately tried to keep shut. The implications were staggering. It suggested that certain powerful forces knew, or at the very least anticipated, a significant event that would provide the perfect smokescreen for such a large-scale operation. The meticulous planning, the sophisticated network of approvals, the international destinations, it all pointed to an organized effort far beyond what initial theories had suggested. This wasn't opportunism, it was premeditation. The WTC vaults, once symbols of impregnable financial security, were revealed to have been compromised from within, their contents systematically siphoned away under the very noses of those who believed they were safeguarding them. The document detailed how the transfers were often masked as security enhancements or diversification strategies in internal reports, making them appear benign and necessary. But when cross-referenced with external shipping manifests and customs declarations, discrepancies emerged. The stated destinations often didn't match the actual routes, and the declared contents sometimes varied from the true nature of the cargo. The deception was layered, designed to withstand casual scrutiny but not the persistent, focused investigation that the whistleblower's document now enabled. This was the moment everything changed, revealing the true scale of the manipulation. The revelation sent shockwaves not just through the financial world, but also among those who had spent years dismissed as fringe conspiracy theorists. For me, the narrator, the weight of this information was immense. It was a vindication, but also a terrifying burden. The fear for my safety and the integrity of this investigation became a constant companion. Knowing that I was now holding the key to unlocking a truth that powerful forces had gone to such lengths to conceal was a heavy feeling. It meant I was now a direct threat to them. As this information began to surface, albeit cautiously at first, secondary characters emerged from the shadows. Whistleblowers, emboldened by the anonymous source's courage, began to confirm crucial parts of the story. These were not just random individuals. They were people who had worked within the logistics, security, or financial departments of the very entities implicated. They spoke of hushed conversations, unusual directives, and the unsettling feeling that something was deeply wrong, even if they couldn't articulate exactly what at the time. Their testimonies, while often fragmented and requiring careful corroboration, painted a more complete picture of the premeditated nature of the gold's removal. Financial experts, those independent analysts who had faced ridicule for years, now found themselves with tangible data to dissect. They pored over the leaked documents, cross-referencing them with publicly available shipping records, market fluctuations, and international trade reports. Their analysis confirmed the patterns of unusual gold movements, the discrepancies in official statements, and the sheer scale of the operation. They could now quantify the billions that had vanished, not in the chaos of a single day, but through a series of calculated maneuvers over months. Their meticulous work provided the numerical backbone to the whistleblower's claims, making the abstract concept of missing gold a concrete financial reality. On the other side, official figures, representing the unnamed financial entities and government bodies, vehemently denied the claims. They labeled the documents forgeries, the whistleblowers disgruntled employees, and the financial experts sensationalists seeking attention. Their denials were immediate and forceful, often delivered with an air of indignation and authority designed to shut down any further inquiry. They pointed to their own official reports and investigations, which consistently concluded that the gold had been safely recovered or accounted for. This aggressive stance further muddied the waters, creating a cacophony of conflicting narratives that made it difficult for the public to discern the truth. The cultural dynamics of the country heavily influenced public reactions. For those who had always harbored suspicions about the official 9/11 narrative, this revelation was a powerful confirmation of their long-held beliefs. They embraced the conspiracy, viewing it as undeniable proof of systemic corruption at the highest levels. For others, particularly those who trusted established institutions, the claims were dismissed as baseless, irresponsible, and disrespectful to the memory of those lost on 9/11. They saw it as an attempt to undermine national unity and spread divisive falsehoods. The psychological impact was profound, as public trust in institutions, already fragile, was further eroded for some, while others clung even tighter to the official story as a bulwark against what they perceived as dangerous disinformation. The immediate fallout was intense. Attempts to discredit the source of the leaked document and the whistleblowers were swift and brutal. Their characters were attacked, their motives questioned, and their personal lives scrutinized. Official investigations were launched, but these often appeared to be more about damage control and discrediting the new narrative than genuinely seeking answers. They typically concluded that no wrongdoing had occurred or that the documents were misinterpreted. The struggle to bring this truth to a wider audience against such powerful opposition was a constant uphill battle, fraught with challenges. Mainstream media outlets, wary of the political and financial implications, often hesitated to cover the story in depth, fearing retaliation or simply unable to reconcile it with the established narrative. Every step forward felt like pushing against a solid wall, But the truth, once glimpsed, refused to be reburied. The realization that the truth, however inconvenient or dangerous, had a way of refusing to stay buried fueled my resolve. The scattered pieces of information, once disparate and confusing, now began to coalesce into a coherent, albeit chilling picture. I started connecting the dots between the pre-9/11 gold movements and the specific financial entities involved, tracing the complex web of shell corporations, international transfers, and seemingly legitimate transactions that had masked the systematic siphoning. It was like solving a vast, intricate puzzle, each new piece fitting perfectly, revealing the hidden masterpiece of deception. The evidence pointed overwhelmingly to a select group of powerful financial institutions and individuals who had exploited their insider knowledge and influence. They had used the guise of security upgrades and routine asset management to systematically empty the vaults beneath the World Trade Center. Long before the towers fell, the 9/11 attacks, tragic and devastating, then served as the ultimate diversion, allowing them to finalize their operations and bury the tracks under the rubble and chaos. It was a cold, calculated act, devoid of any human empathy, driven purely by greed on an unimaginable scale. The final consequence for those responsible for this deception began to materialize, not through immediate legal prosecution, which remained elusive in the face of their immense power and control over institutions, but through a different, equally potent form of justice: public exposure. My investigation, amplified by the courageous whistleblowers and the meticulous work of independent financial analysts, slowly but surely chipped away at their carefully constructed facades. The narrative I was helping to build, supported by irrefutable documents and expert testimony, painted them as architects of a grand deception, exploiting national tragedy for personal gain. The irreversible damage to their reputations and institutions started to become evident. While they might still operate in the shadows, their names and the names of their organizations became synonymous with illicit dealings and profound dishonesty in certain circles. Public trust, once freely given, was now irrevocably shattered for them. Investors, however quietly, began to pull back. Partnerships became strained. The whispers of their involvement turned into louder accusations, even if not always in mainstream headlines. The power of persistent investigation, of relentless truth-seeking, was proving to be a force even they could not entirely subdue. This resolution, while not the dramatic courtroom conviction many might imagine, felt satisfying and realistic. It highlighted the profound power of uncovering and disseminating truth, even when facing overwhelming opposition. It showed that even the most powerful entities can be held accountable, even if that accountability manifests as a slow, corrosive erosion of their authority and legitimacy, rather than a swift legal judgment. The triumph of truth was partial, yes, but undeniably present. It was a victory for the independent spirit of inquiry against the forces of narrative control. Reflecting on this long, arduous journey, the enduring mystery of 9/11 gained another darker layer. The gold, it turned out, was never truly missing. It was deliberately moved, a calculated act that predated the catastrophe. This realization underscored the fragility of public trust, how easily it could be manipulated, and how quickly official narratives could be crafted to obscure uncomfortable truths. It served as a stark reminder of the eternal vigilance required to uncover truths hidden in plain sight, especially when those truths are inconvenient for the powerful. The gold may be gone, scattered across various undisclosed accounts and investments, its physical presence dissolved into the vast opaque ocean of global finance. But the story of its disappearance, the intricate web of deceit and exploitation it revealed, serves as a potent warning. It stands as a testament to the fact that some secrets, no matter how deeply buried or how powerfully protected, will eventually find their way to the light. And in that light, even if justice is slow and unconventional, the truth can still prevail, leaving an indelible mark on those who sought to conceal it.